Follow him. Hmm?
Good morning. Can you hear me now? How are you?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Good. I can hear you too.
Yeah, morning.
Morning. Hey, it's so nice to see you. Was complaining to my husband that my whole life consists of talking to black squares now. So I need feedback from squares. Give me feedback. So just black squares, that's my life. Am I in Star Trek? Oh yeah, I'm in Star Trek. I forgot I have my virtual background. I thought you were seeing my house. I was like, no, it's just my, oh no, it's not my house. I thought that's what it was. Yeah, I'm on the bridge. Here, I'm ready to get away from the corona. Need to travel far, far away, right? I got some good backgrounds. I think it will let me change them while we're working. It's really picky about that stuff. It's like, no, you can't do it when you're having a meeting because I found some really good ones. I'll show you. I'll try to change them here in a minute. There's some good ones. So how's everybody? Did you have a good weekend? Yay. I did. I've got to find something. Hang on. That's us. I'm just going to step through this. I'll share my screen with you and turn off my video. I'm glad now everybody, I was in a big meeting, an OTC meeting Thursday afternoon after our class last week, and someone said, oh, turn off your video, that'll make it better. And I thought, phew, at least it's getting out there that people know. You don't have to sit there with a terrible cutting out session. You can stop your video and that'll help things. Well, we've been working hard. I know everybody's working super hard on getting Adam going and all of the other Python things we've been working on. Today we'll try to take advantage of some of that and do some subprogram practice, function practice with Python, getting together in Adam in our groups. So I've added a quick assignment to Canvas that is very vague and just says to follow instructions. So I do have a place for your group to turn their final product in. So sometimes it is nice if you feel like there were points at the end, but not a lot of pressure here on this one. I know we have a few other assignments due. We'll be looking at that. So today we're going to really focus on finishing up with subprograms, you know, kind of tying up some loose ends, making sure everybody understands how to return a value from a subprogram. And we're going to do those group breakouts to do a little practice. And then we'll try, if we have time, to have a Quizlet Live competition. So it'll be a one-on-one thing, each person against everybody else. Get a little brutal. And then on Thursday, we are supposed to have our Unit 3 exam. That's in our schedule on Canvas. And so since you guys have that exam to take, I think it would be best if we did not have our 8 a.m. Zoom session on Thursday. Now, I can be available, and if you have questions, I will respond right away, but I don't think that we need to have our scheduled meeting because you already have the stress of getting that exam done and the associated hands-on project. So we know if there's any questions about that. Does that make sense to everybody? We'll just not have our Zoom session.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Great. And for that exam, like before, you can use collaborative notes from your study group. So do make sure somebody, you know, is getting those set up and that you guys are working on getting things in your notes. Sorry, I'm trying to get my screens all set up here. Zoom is really nice and it gives you a lot of different options, but every time you change the display, it rearranges everything. Accounting test weekend, ew, that was, I'm sure it was, you did really well, RJ. Yay. Okay, so that'll be this week. Subprogram practice, Unit 3 exam. Next week then, we will be working with array handling on Tuesday. And we've already worked with a few lists and some different types of features like that that are similar to arrays. So we should be able to talk about them and do some practice and kind of see where we are. We'll also take a look at what your options are going to be for your hands-on final project, because that'll be coming up pretty quick. And then on Thursday, we'll talk, if time allows, we'll talk about file handling. It's very similar to working with arrays. And we'll do some together practice on reading and writing from a text file. So we won't have an assignment per se on that. But we will take a look at working with an image file and making some changes to it so that we can do some art type things. Then the first week of May, just going through the whole semester here, right? Because I want you to see the end is in sight. the first week in May. On Tuesday, we'll discuss object-oriented concepts and do some practice and review our final project requirements and see how everybody's doing. And then on that Thursday, we should be able to review for our final work on projects, you know, if anybody's got any last minute questions. Because we're an online class then, I'm going to do the online class final schedule, which means our multiple choice final, the written final, will be available from 5/7, which is that Friday, until the following Thursday. So that will be just the open window for your final exam. So you will be able to use your study group collaboration notes that you've built up over the semester. And you will take that on your own anytime during this availability window. The hands-on project is due 5/14. So we have quite a bit of time between now and then. And I don't want you to feel stressed or pressured by our schedule. I just want you to know what's coming up, that we have everything well in hand, and it shouldn't be any big deal for us to finish everything up. So we'll do that. So try to create a low stress environment, but I don't want you to feel unchallenged. So if you feel like you need some more work, do let me know, and we can make arrangements for that to happen too. So sometimes people are like, I could do more, and that's great. We've got lots and lots of things. Okay, questions about that? Our schedule. After the 7th, no, the 7th will be our last class, and then it will start with finals week. So it would be that way even if we were still at school. 7th would be our last class, but then we would come back that next week to take our final. You guys will just be taking your final online, so you'll have more time to get that done. Other questions? Try to get everything all cleared up for everybody. And I mentioned last week that OTC has that new need help button on their website, and they sent out an email again yesterday saying that they're hearing a lot of people are having issues with food insecurities. So do please contact them if that's an issue for you. That's definitely not something that we want you to have to deal with on top of classes and everything else. So they've made some arrangements to try to take care of those kinds of things. So do let them know. All right, finishing up subprograms. I know some people have a really, really good understanding of how subprograms work, how we import our input data into the subprogram and return our output data. But this is an area that can sometimes leave some new people with a lot of questions. So I wanted to really emphasize how things work and make sure that, like I said, we've tied up all of our loose questions or loose ends. So I'm going to be looking at let's see, this PowerPoint that says example program. So I've got it. You can download it if you want it. So whenever we look at subprograms and functions, we're really just taking logical pieces of code and separating them out, right? We want each logical function to live within its own function so that we can reuse that function over and over again. So they're really just pieces of code. Way back when we were just looking at pseudocode and starting with Python, one of the programs that we looked at was calculating a salesperson's commission. So this program is something that's been around, it's come and gone. Let's take a look at it here. In this example, we have our main function, and then in our input statement, we're updating some global variables. So this version of the program uses those global variables that they're declared up here, probably above the comment. Sorry about that. That part is missing. But we have these global variables that we can access in every subprogram within our entire script or our entire program. And then last time when we started talking about declaring functions and actually using these subprograms, creating them and using them, we saw that the preferred method is to pass data between our subprograms so that we're not using that shared global data. We want each function to be independent, to stand alone, to be its own functional piece. So in this actual salesperson commission program, we could change things a little bit. In the original version, our input function says, I'm going to update these global variables, and then it uses an input statement to get data for those global variables. Then that data is available to the rest of the script. Well, in the revised version, it looks a little more complicated because instead of just calling our input function, now when we call our input, we've actually split it into two different functions, and I'll show you why. But we have to use a variable to capture the data that is returned by that function. Let's take a look. In our input sales function, revised, we prompt the user for an amount, a sales amount. We store that amount in a variable, and then we use the return statement, which is a special keyword that says, return this data to my caller. So we use that return statement to return that sales amount variable. That data then is available in memory. When control is returned back to our main function, that data will be saved in the sales amount variable that is part of the main function. Notice that these two functions use the same variable name, but they're different instances of that variable, right? They're different locations in memory because that variable is local. So down here, the sales amount variable belongs to the input sales method. Up here, the sales amount variable belongs to the main method. They do not share memory. Now the second input function that we call uses the return statement, and what the value it returns is whatever the user types in the input statement. So notice in our first function, we capture the data from the input statement in a variable. In our second function, we don't use a variable at all. We just return that value directly to the caller. Net same effect. So either one is fine. You can kind of decide which one you prefer. And then the next thing that happens in this program is we call the commission earned function. Let's take a look. We're going to go ahead on through this and we'll dissect a little bit more of that code piece by piece. I should have already moved ahead. Here's the ones we just talked about. Instead of having the global variable, we have two functions that issue return statements. Now this is another interesting point. Using global variables, we were able to do both input functions in one Python function. Now it's split. There are all sorts of things that we could discuss about this, but basically, I want a function to do one thing. So I want my input sales function to gather the sales amount. That's the one thing I want it to do. I want my input rate function to gather the rate. That's the one thing I want it to do. So I've split those up into these separate functions. A lot of programming languages have a rule that we can only return one data item with a return statement. Python does not have that rule. So in Python, we really could gather both of those pieces of data and return them both.
Oh,
Hey? Okay, sounds like somebody was having an issue. All right, everybody's okay. All right,
I'm good.
do what?
I said I'm good.
Oh, okay. There's excitement going on at your house.
Someone's house.
It's been quiet around here. All right, so here's our updated input. When you guys break out into your groups, you can try some different things like that, like, what happens if we return to variables? But I want you to kind of stay pretty close to just returning one, because that is a requirement in so many other programming languages. Now, in our main, when we call those functions, notice the call. First of all, the call just names the function and then follows with the open and closing parentheses because we're not passing any data into that function. The function returns a value, and that value is placed in the variable that precedes the equal sign. So our input sales data is returned to the main method. And this slide shows the fact that those sales amount variables are different in memory. We have two separate sales amount variables. Local. All right, calculate. Here's our original calculate module. When we were using a global variable, we said this function is going to update this global, and then we did the calculation to update that variable, and then the rest of our script could see that data within our variable. The revised module is a little different. The revised module has parameters to specify the data is needed for input to this function. So I can't call calculate with just an open and close parenthesis. When I call calculate, I'm going to have to supply data for both of these parameters, or else the call will not be completed. Now, in this calculate function, it takes these data amounts that were passed in, that were imported, it uses them in the calculation, and it comes up with an amount that it stores in a variable, then it returns that variable. Note, we could just have a return statement there, return, and then the calculation. Now, when we call this calculate function, down here in the red, as I mentioned, we have to supply data for both of those required input parameters. This data could just be a literal that we typed in, could be a variable, could be a variable with a different name. As long as it is the right data type, the data will be imported by the subprogram. Now, when we call the calculate function, it returns a value. In this example, we're saving that value in our commission earned variable. So when our main function calls our calculate, it passes as input the commission rate and the sales amount. Our calculate function acts as a black box. It does some things. We don't have to know what. That can be a confidential formula. And then the calculate function returns the calculated value back to the caller. Now, this over here might be a little confusing, but it shows all of the different variables we have in memory. So, we have the data that's being passed into the calculate module, and then the commission earned that was calculated in the module is copied to a new location in memory to be returned to our main module in its commission earned variable. So we can be using a whole lot of memory. Is the point there? We also want to keep track of separate variables. So last time we worked on declaring functions using our def statements, and we saw a lot of these things. Our parameters are in order. They're separated by commas. They're given a name that becomes the variable name for that data within the function. The parentheses are required to signify our list of input values. All of this information, the name of the function and its input data, becomes the signature of the function. A function has to have a unique signature. When we call our calculate, these are the separate pieces. If you could think of those highlighters or colored pens, SP20 to circle some things. Our purple area is the variable that's going to be holding the returned data because it precedes the equal sign. After the equal sign, we have our function name, which calls our function, and then the arguments that are going to be imported by our function as parameters. So our main sets up our variables, sets up our return data, and does the call. Our calculate function imports those variables as parameters, does whatever it wants, and returns the results. The results are saved in the supplied variable, and the main continues processing. Now our output module is also revised. Our original output module accessed our global variables, so all we had to do was print out the required output. Our revised output module now has to ask for that data as a parameters. The print statement is not much different though, right? It's just that now that data is coming from these variables that are declared in our function signature instead of coming from a global variable that's somewhere else in the program. So not much change. And then when we call our output module, since our output module does not do a return, we don't have to supply a variable or an equal sign, right? We just can say, call my output function and pass this data. And then there's some code in there if you want to look at it of that some different programs that are changed from using globals to using functions. So there's some sample code in there if you want to look at it. Questions? Can't see the chat. Let me bring it up.
So Python can have multiple return lines? Really? So execution doesn't stop after the last return?
It cannot have multiple return lines. It can return multiple values or variables in one return statement.
Is that just a table? Like how would you access them if you set one variable to be the output of two variables?
It really does create it as an array itself, but you can kind of get away with setting two variable names before your equal sign when you call it, like output 1 comma output 2 equals gather input, and have your input return both values. So
interesting.
Play with
So
it
most other languages can output arrays though. So
right. So as long as you're just using one variable name, you could have a bunch of stuff, you know, smooshed in there is an array, or, you know, even a bunch of concatenated strings or something if you wanted to try to sneak it in that way. But definitely, the array is the best way. So we'll be doing that next time. All right, so let me close that. So for our groups, we have a few people I know that are still having trouble with Adam. So those people might have to like contribute via watching, you know, and trying to communicate in that way. I know the last time we did a group thing, we used Discord to communicate with each other because the breakout rooms in Zoom were kind of weird. But I think we could handle the breakout rooms in Zoom. Before we do that, though, let me bring up Adam. And let's see how our connections are going. So I'll create like a server here. Let's see, here's our yellow duck program. And then I'm going to try to set this up where you guys can jump in. All right. So here is the portal. I'm going to paste it in our chat. Now I want to quit sharing and have one of you guys that's done this already take over the share so that you can show others how to connect in case we have some people that haven't had an opportunity to do that. So I'm going to stop sharing. And someone who is not connected yet, who has connected before, would you grab that share and take over? You can do that. We've already got a few people in here. Yay! It's telling me that I've got people who have joined. Who can take over the screen and show us how to join? There we go. You're so good. Okay. So remember, our big issue is you might have to be signed in to GitHub. Is the sign in with GitHub link active? Will it let you click that, or do you have to? No. Let's open Chrome and go to github.com and log in, because I don't want you to do any of those GitHub repository things. You are welcome to, but it can be a little discerning. Okay, so he's signed on to GitHub. And now he's gonna click sign in there, that sign in button. Notice it's a little bit different. And so what's gonna happen this time is, the first time it was complaining because there was no GitHub login. Now it sees that GitHub is logged in, but it's saying I have to authenticate to GitHub. So click sign in, that sign in button there on that. Well, oh, it won't let you. So there he goes. So you had to switch to Chrome to GitHub. Now mine, that GitHub window will open automatically. So you might have a little bit of differences there. You'd already even done this before. It's being mean to you. Okay, now he's got that option to join the portal. I'm not exactly sure how that went. He's in. I think he's in. Okay, thank you, Zach. He's typing here. I'm going to take back over so you can see it. Okay, so I've got a few errors showing up. So it says that these errors have already been reported. So I'm going to close out and we'll find out if anybody was having, if those were affecting specific users. Trying to get the chat open, hang on. Josh, are they affecting you? Clee, try again. It's just so slow. You might have to watch and contribute via voice. So, okay, I think that we have, let's see, 15 in our class, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 connected to our portal.
I'm still trying to get on.
Okay. So I think we probably should make a list, and the first thing we want to do is get connected to GitHub and then open Atom. And I've got information I'm gathering for you on using GitHub as a repository. Atomizer stuff. Let's get it. Okay, so we're going to have some groups that are going to be able to connect to this and some that aren't. Now, the deal is the person that is going to set up a server for you will do what I did and just try to activate the server, and then everybody else will receive that connection string from them and authenticate and connect to their server. You're not going to stay here on mine because you guys would all be able to see each other's stuff, and that's not what we want. We want separate groups. So we're going to have our Zoom breakout rooms will be our first step. We'll go into your Zoom breakout room. You guys can all turn on your audio, discuss who's going to start the Atom server. Everybody connect to the Atom server. And once you're connected to the Atom server, we want to write some code. Everybody's here. We're getting there. We have a few people. Now, like I said, if you can't connect, that's okay, because you can watch your group and participate via voice and, you know, helping with other things. You just won't be able to change the ugly code they type to be what you want. So don't be brutal. Look at all those icons. I love it. It's awesome. Ugly code there. It is so fantastic. Okay, I'm going to shut down my server. Look at people leaving just because I said I was going to shut it down. is going to kick you out. Ouch, kaboom. All right. Then we want to do breakout rooms. So let's see. I'm going to look at our groups. I should have left you in there while I was looking, huh? So you could type important things. All right, we're looking at our revised groups. So in Canvas, our name is new 4-7 study group. So we have a little bit different group members than what we had in the past. Let me move this over where you can see it. Okay, so I want to manually assign people 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rooms. And before we go anywhere, let's look at what I want you to do once you're there. So we've got all of this technical stuff decided. You're going to connect using these breakout rooms. You're going to have an Atom server. Everybody's going to try to connect to it. You're going to try to code together. That's going to be the majority of your time, right, for this breakout session, because sometimes as developers, our technical decisions have a huge impact on what we do. And Atom was our technical decision that we were going to use that as a development tool. So it's going to take a little bit of our breakout time. And that's what we expect, because we're in a field that is very dependent on the technical tools that it's using. So next, what in your group, you're going to work together to code a function that expects 2 inputs. This function should expect 1 input that's a string and 1 that's an integer. Its job is going to be to return a string containing the input string integer number of times. So for example, if somebody calls this function with a string word in an integer 3, the return should be word space, word space, word space. So that's what this function is going to do. You're going to name it, set it up. Now to test your function, you're going to use a main method. So your main method or your main function is going to be your tester. It's going to call the function you've created. First time it calls the function you create, it's going to store the return value in a variable and use the print statement to print the variable. The second time, it's going to call the function within a print statement directly and just print the output. Now, when your group is completed with this task, you're going to report back to this main Zoom session to show me what you've done to receive further instructions to continue on with the development of your program. So come back when you're done. Now I'm going to try to set up these breakout rooms. One, Mary, Clean, no, Kenneth, Michael. Oh, that looks good. Okay, and room 2. Josh, Isaiah, Chelsea, Vincent. 3. Zach, Sona, Alexis is not here. Jesus is not here. Okay, you two. Let's see. RJ. Travis. And that's weird. We're missing Dylan. And then our last group is also going to be small. Now, if your group gets stuck and you're not exactly sure what to do, just come back to the main session and then we'll figure out how to do things. Now, if it won't let you out of the room, send me a message in Discord or something so I know you're trapped in there and I can close it. Let's see what our options are. There we go. Allow participants to return to the main session. So you should be able to do that. Our breakout rooms will not close automatically. And that should be good. So I'm going to open our rooms. RJ, is it not letting you join your room?
are you still available over here?
Sure.
Can you post the directions somewhere so we can see them?
Sure.
I didn't quite get the second part right.
Can you see the chat?
Yes.
Okay, you can.
Yep.
Let me put, I'm just gonna copy it. Let's see how it goes. That's not gonna look good. Okay, let's see how this looks. I don't know if it'll let me. Okay, I'm gonna paste it on Discord. Let's see if that'll work. That's not what I want. There it is. It's like I click on the wrong thing and then I'm stuck. Okay. Okay, I pasted it in Discord.
Perfect. Thank
You
you.
see it? Okay, thank you, Chelsea. Bye.
Do you know? Oh, here we go.
Do you
Cool,
see it?
thanks.
Awesome. Thank you.
Hello again.
Hello, sorry.
Can you explain the second part of the assignment a little more in depth? Because we're all not totally understanding what we need to make that do.
The function or the main function?
The main function as a tester.
It just needs to call your other function. So it needs to call it two ways. It needs to call it once to save the output in a variable, and it needs to call it again just directly in a print statement. So it doesn't matter what you pass to it, just pass valid test data to it. Like if you want to pass word in 3 like this, that would be valid test data.
Okay, so it needs to store the input data and then print that variable again.
Well, what's a call going to look like to your function? What did you name your function?
It looks like we've got main.
What about the function that returns the string multiple times? What's that function called?
Okay. I think we need to rename it because they defined the one that returns the word main. So it looks like we've got 2 of them in there.
Right. So let's give that other function a good name. And then
Okay.
in the main, we just need to call it and make sure it works. So we just want to make sure it works to return a variable and then see how we can just call it directly in a print statement.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Okay, thanks. And then let's see, who else have we got here?
Basically the entirety of study group 3.
So that big group. So you guys have this all beat down. Let me see what you got. I'm gonna quit sharing somewhere. There it is. Okay.
Do you want us to invite you to our teletype?
Can you just share your screen with me? There we go. I like doing the teletype idea though too. Okay, so tell me what we've got here.
All right, so let's see here. Now, is that working? Sorry, I had my mic muted again. We have our our basic comment. We have our first thing, which I'll get rid of that. We have our first function, which takes a string and a number and has a counter and an output variable, which it uses to return later. And it loops over if this number is still higher than the iteration count and keeps adding this to itself plus that input plus a space.
Nice.
And as it adds up, it eventually takes over and gets to this return, which returns export data to the main function, where I set up just an input for the string and the numbers so we can call those easily. And then you can set this to a variable, or you can set it to just be directly inputting into a print statement. And that's that.
Great.
It should run. Is that satisfactory?
Beautiful. Yes. Okay, so here's what we want to do next. Let me share. Yeah, that's wonderful. So it's not, here we go. Not going to be too bad for you guys. And I'll put this on Discord also.
I hate how it reverts my screen to Windows Basic every time I zoom.
Have you heard me complaining? Every time I change it, redoes my. That's what I'm complaining. I'll have everything just the way I want it, and then if I stop sharing, it just. And so it returns you back to Windows Basic settings.
Just
I
the
thought
the
do what?
visuals.
I thought I lost some of my dark mode settings yesterday, so that must be why. Because I was like, I swear I had this all set. All right, so now I want you to make your program print out the row, row, row your boat song. So you're going to have a separate function to print out each line of the song. So like your first line should call the function you just created to make row, row, row print out 3 times or into the string. Then you're going to have to add more to that string before you print it. You should have another function to print out the second line of the song. Another function for the third line, depending on how you want to do it. So our final output is going to be the song. Does that make sense?
Yes, I believe so.
All right. I think you guys have maybe lost somebody. All right, I'm going to let you go back to your rooms then and make that happen. Thank you. Do I have to do anything to send you back to your room?
No, I can just click breakout rooms and then join breakout room, and then I'm back there.
You're back in there?
So I'm gonna head back there now.
Okay, you're there. You can go. Thank you, sir.
My Atom is not letting me code, so like whenever I go into Atom, it makes everything gray instead of bringing up the color, and then it won't let me run programs.
Oh, let's see what you got. I'm going to stop my shares. Can you share your screen?
Yeah, so like, if I go into this one right here, can you see it? Yeah, no, maybe, no, I didn't click share. Well,
I can see it. Okay.
okay, so like if I go in here and then I paste like a code I already have, it won't bring up anything whatsoever. And then so like it does this for if I type anything in here.
So did you install the extensions that we had to install for Python with those instructions? So let's go look at your settings and see what's going on with them. So do file, settings.
Okay, file, and then I can, do you just want me to open a folder, the whole folder? I can do that if you want to. Oh, you want me to go set the whole settings of everything? Okay. File, now where's the settings at?
Right there where it says settings under file.
Oh, okay, well.
Yeah, he's hiding from you. Okay, and then under installed, just search for Python and it should.
And I'm pretty sure I have everything because I was in here whenever that Zoom session
You
took
got it
place.
all done. It all looks good. In your file name has a .py on it, right?
Yeah. Oh, I mean.
Yeah, it does.
Oh, okay. I mean that one does, but I don't think this one does. So I think I should have to.
So let's save it or rename it or something.
Okay. And then just whatever I want to name it as.
And with Atom, just make sure you type the .py because it doesn't know, because it's working with so many languages. And I always forget that. There it's happy. Now try your F5 whenever you're ready.
Okay, yeah, okay, thank you. Yeah, I was wondering, I was like, why does this not work?
No problem. I do it like every week with the audience, so it's okay.
Yeah, I was so confused. Okay, thank you.
Sure.
So much. And then breakout rooms. All right, thank you.
Hello?
Hello.
Can we see what we were supposed to do again? Do we need to include the existing main function somehow, or do we just need to write a totally new function?
Yes,
I
you'll
know.
be changing your main.
Oh, so we should just delete it because we made something totally else.
Right. Because yours is really good, but you don't need it.
Do you want to see my screen again briefly just to tell me if I'm doing anything incorrect?
Sure.
Let's see here. We'll do this. Mercifully, switching to the breakout rooms actually unapplies the Windows 7 basic thing.
Just
So-
sends you back and forth, huh?
Yeah, so here's what we have right now. We have our main function still, but it's not being called anywhere. We just wrote a new function.
Oh, okay. Well, you know
And-
what you could do? You could leave it there if you wanted to and create like main 2, and then you could just control which one you call down at the
I
bottom.
guess does that require, I don't know. We're trying to work out what we're supposed to be working towards. Right now you can run it and it prints.
Oh, good.
You-
Yeah.
But it doesn't touch that code at all. So I guess we could write another def like menu, something or like that.
Ooh, fancy. That's a great idea. Because you guys
But
don't have it. Yeah, that looks
I
good.
don't know. Like it gets weird to me because like, does this need input validation? Because you didn't even technically ask for input, but
Right.
we
No.
added some.
Yeah, and
Anything else?
sometimes, and as you get further and further along, they'll just ask you to do stuff like that. Just make a tester, test it. Make sure it all works.
I mean,
So
but the
that's
way I
all.
would have tested it would have just been to put a print statement somewhere in there and have it, roll out. But I guess this is more verbose.
Make you keep it all separate. So looks good though. That's what we want. Anything along those lines, because you guys basically have met the requirements. So
Okay, that's good.
awesome. Thank you.
I'll head back to the break room then.
All righty. Hi. Hello. Are you guys done? You want to share your screen with me, just one of you, and let me see how you solved that problem so far. And you're all muted.
I guess I can go ahead and share if no one else wants to.
Thanks, Mary. You have a shy group, huh?
Sorry, I didn't hear the first part of what you said.
You're fine.
Okay, so here is our code.
Oh, that looks good. We want our function, though, to accept that string and that number as parameters. So we need to move that code that prompts for input to the main, because that's not supposed to be in our function. And then we need to pass that data to our function. So probably those 2 lines above too, that do the defining. So whenever we change our header like that, we have to change all the calls to our function to make sure we are passing stuff. Very good. Nice. Okay, so here's the reason I wanted you to separate those out. For our next step, what we want to do is create some more functions. So we're going to be changing our main. I'm going to take over here. Here's my snipping tool. So we're now going to make this program print out the row, row, row your boat song. So we want our main to call a function to print out each line. So for the first line of the song, we want our new function that does the first line of the song to call the function you just created to print the row, row, row part out 3 times. And then you're going to want to call it again when you have more repeating words. Does that make sense? So in the end, our main function is going to print out the whole row, row, row your boat song. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, come back when you're done. And then who else do we have in here? Another group.
We just got back in group 5.
Okay, great. Does one of you want to share your screen and show me what you've got?
Okay. Can you hear me okay?
Uh-huh.
All right. Let me see. Let me streamline this a bit. here's what we put together. We think we read the instructions right. It took us a few minutes to reread them, but and I'm not really good on the right terms, but
That's okay.
so we created some variables, stored them down here, passed the variable here. We think, just looking at it now, we might not have needed to do what we did, but anyway, those two variables stored inside of this variable, and then we're returning it through print. And I think that made sense to us at the minute.
Now, in our assignment, it says our function should expect two inputs. So we have that header set up right. It wants thing one and thing two to be passed to it. But why are we asking for input to set up thing one and thing two? Move those two lines of code to your main. Our function is not supposed to be asking for input. It's only supposed to be doing that function of repeating a word.
Okay.
Sending it back. Now, do you want those to be using variable thing one and thing two, or do you want them to now use var1 and var2?
I'll stick with thing one and thing two. So I need to cut these.
Okay.
And then this, and
Perfect.
I think that sounds right.
That looks good. And now when we do our call, we're going to have that. So in our function, we're supposed to return a string, not print a string. So can we make that function do that return instead of the print?
Yes.
So that means I'm going to have to move that print down to the main.
Okay. And then I'm just going to code this out for right now. I'm sorry, comment it out. Okay.
Okay. Perfect.
So essentially that's what we should be doing then.
That's
okay.
Good. That's why I wanted to look.
Okay.
And then now in our main, where are we let's print out.
Oh, okay. Now that makes sense.
That's it? Okay.
So now this is where we want to print all things.
Right. And where are we storing the returned value from function one when we call it? Right now we've got a nice call to it, function one, parenthesis, thing one, comma, thing two. But don't we need a variable now to hold the return value in our main? Your function looks great.
Is that what the return is doing?
Yes. It's sending that data back. So in our main,
that makes sense.
we need to save it somewhere. So
we just create another variable then.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so
it's going to be your all things variable, right? Because you're printing.
Okay.
Equals your function. So now move your function call down to that line.
I'm sorry, move.
The line above. Move it.
Oh, okay.
After that equals sign. Okay. So now you're saying call that function and put the return value into all things, and then you're printing all things. Now the next thing it wants you to do.
That makes so much more sense.
Let's do another print statement at the end of your main. And this time we want to do that, paste that function call again. That from before, yeah. And
paste that in there.
Uh-huh. And so now you should see that both prints are the same, come with the same output. It was just two different ways of handling that. Does that make sense? Try to run it.
Does.
Let's make sure it'll run.
No. Thing two not defined.
Now look at your function definition. Do you have a variable named thing two? Or is it named thing underscore
do we need
two? So let's change that to use the underscore there in your code. So,
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I see that. Okay.
because I like it that you have different variable names, because that really emphasizes the fact you don't need to have the same variable names, right?
Okay, so this should work.
That should work now, yeah.
Okay, so it printed it twice that way and then that way.
Uh-huh.
Okay, that makes sense. I'll buy that.
Awesome. Now, what I want you to add, I'm going to take over here.
Okay.
I would really like to see that.
How are you pulling that window from the corner to run your
Are you asking him?
What's that?
I am. I haven't been able to get all this different functionality on Atom. I'm wondering how you pull that window up.
Oh, I'm just hitting F5.
To run it?
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm just hitting F5 and it pops up on my other window, on my other screen. So I was dragging it over so you could see it.
So it's actually a pain, huh? Okay, so now you guys created this awesome function that repeats words. So let's use that function, and I want you to print out the row, row, row your boat song. Now, the way you're going to print it out is you're going to set up a function to print out each line. So the first line, row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. You're going to call the function you just created to do the rows. And then you're going to add more to it. And so at the end, we want the whole song to print out. Does that make sense? Does that give you lots of questions?
Okay, so create a function to print out each line. First line should call your repeat string function for the row, 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 and add your boat before. Oh, wow. Okay.
So we're going to have a new function that calls this function you just created.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll have, you know, several new functions depending on how we need to print out each line.
Okay.
Okay, I'll see you when you're done.
Okay, thanks.
Or have questions. Thanks.
Okay, how do I get back into the breakout room
I
again?
was like, is that you guys? There we go. Yay. Did you find it?
Um,
I have no idea because mine's so different. It sounds like they're finding that the Zoom toolbar and maybe on more.
Yeah, maybe next to the record button down on the bottom. I see breakout rooms. I don't know what to do.
I can't see. I got. We'll figure it out. Just a
I
second.
know they found it. Chelsea, how do you join the breakout room again?
Down at the bottom.
There
like
it is.
They found it. Thank you. Daniel, do you see it? There, he's got it. Hey, Chelsea, how's it going?
I think we've got everything done.
Awesome.
Okay.
Let me send a message to this other group. Someone's invited me to join their breakout room, and I can't do that when I'm talking to you guys. So let me see if I can.
Yeah, I think that was Sunny and I.
Oh, okay, good. So you're set. So Chelsea, your other people are still in their breakout room. Oh, here they come. Okay. Vincent and Sunny are still in the breakout rooms. We'll see. what they have
I'm
going on.
trying to get a hold of Sunny right now.
Okay, Chelsea, Isaiah, Josh, Vincent, someone show me your completed beautiness. Let me stop my share so you can do that.
I'm going to share my screen now.
Okay.
Click share. Go here.
Oh, nice.
So it asks us dinner or song. We type dinner. It says, you have received delicious dinner.
Love it.
Dinner or song. We type song. It types the song that you have described before.
Nice.
But
I
if we
think
type
that you're
anything
set.
else, if we type neither dinner or song, it just says invalid inputs.
Very nice. You guys are done. Turn that thing in.
Do we all need to turn one in or just one person?
It should be one for the group. So you guys should be all set. If you would, make sure there's a comment at the top with all of the people that were here today. I think your whole group was here. I just want to make sure that I don't
I said in group 3.
give
We
somebody.
forgot to put our names in.
No problem. Okay, get that thing turned in. And I'm going to go see what this other group has got. Because, yeah, either one of you can submit it. Thanks, you guys. Let me know if you need anything. And we are not going to do anything else today. So I will.
I'll stop my share so you can do your thing.
Thank you, sir.
And I have some pings in here.
I will see you guys Tuesday. Let me know if you need anything between now and then.
Unsure how about you? Work.
Okay, then.
Looks like
Zach and Sunny, what do you guys got? Can you, one of you, share your screen with me?
Yeah.
Should we leave?
Yep, you can leave. You are done. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so we were dealing with some technical difficulties.
You did
on
great.
both
I
of
knew.
our ends.
I knew there would be issues for sure.
So this is just the first portion of the instructions,
Okay.
which we've got copied here. We don't even know what the remainder is yet.
That's all right.
But it's just pretty basic. Here we type in a word, so we're going to use test. Type in a number. We'll put in 145 times.
I'm going to assume that's right.
Yeah, yeah. It's here new string plus the blank space times int number of times. So
well, that looks good. Now for our assignment though, our function is supposed to accept 2 inputs. That means it should have parameters within the parentheses.
okay.
So I should be able to see my like new string, comma new int. Though they should be not global variables because we're going to get away from that. So let's delete those as global.
Okay.
Can you show us an example of the syntax?
And let's delete those. Now, in your input, you're just going to put your variable name separated by commas for your new function.
Down here?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And so what do you want those variables to be named? And then you're going to put a comma in between. Now, when we're done, we want to return that test output because we're going to actually print it in a different function. We want this function to only have one job, and its job is read that string and that number and return to me a string with that string that many times, okay? So the return statement, perfect, is going to be our output. We don't want parentheses, so just return space and then the variable name. And I think we could have it within parentheses after our space, but we'll just leave it like that. Now, where do we call our dual output function? Down there in our main?
It's currently being called down in main.
To simplify things, because you guys have it so nice, let's move those two input statements down into your main and get rid of your really nice new input function. We'll just decimate that thing.
So these are going to come down here.
Right, and then let's
this
just
is
get
going
rid of
to
that
go away.
function. Yeah, it's so nice.
And
very good. Now, when our dual output function returns a value, we can save that value in a variable. And that's what we want to do this first time we call our dual output. First of all, before we do that though, within the parentheses, we need to specify the variables that we want to pass to that function.
okay, so in here, we need to specify the name of the variable.
That we're sending to it from our main. So what do we name those variables in our main? New string.
New string and new int.
Okay. And those do not need to be named the same, right? In our function. So we can name them whatever we want.
Okay.
So now, that sets up our call to that function, but we would like to save the data that the function outputs. So before we call the function at the beginning of the line, we want to put our variable name to save that output data into. So let's call it, I don't know, return value, and then equals. So now whenever we call our function, we're saying whatever this function returns, put it into return value. So let's print return value next. Let's run it like that. Make sure everything's good.
Appears to be working.
Okay, good. So now we want one more line of code down there in our main. Let's print. And this time, I want you to print dual output, open parenthesis, and then your parameter variable names, new string, comma, new int. Now that should print the exact same thing as the previous print statement. Okay,
yep.
So notice how we can save the return value in a variable or just print that return value, right? Okay, so now what we want to do, you guys might have enough time and you can turn it in however you want. But here's the last part.
Okay.
I'm going to steal your screen. I like it. So we want to make this into a printout of Row, Row, Row Your Boat, the song. So in our main, we should call a function to print the first line of the song. In that function, we should call the function you guys just created to make it print the row, row, row part. And then we should add your boat to the end of it before we print it. The second line should just print gently down the stream. third line. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
See what I want?
Yes, but do you want the reiterated words such as row or merely as an input, or can we just set this up to F5 it and do its thing?
You should call your function that you just created, right? That's why we created the
Yeah.
function to call it. So let's use it. So no, don't just print out the song and press F5. Use logic to utilize the function that you've created so that you can print it out. And I'll post this on Discord. Looks like we're getting some behind you. So I'm gonna let you guys join the breakout room or however you want to do it. But like I said, you're welcome to turn in what you have, because that's really good progress. And that was the first step of what we wanted, was to define that function and call it in a couple of different ways so we could see our output. Okay, so take your exam Wednesday or Thursday, I'm sorry. Let me know if you need anything between now and next week. I'll see you then. Thanks.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, who else have we got here?
We just got back in. Group 5.
Oh, okay. What have you got? Okay, go ahead and share your screen with me.
All right. I hope we didn't completely misunderstand this, because it didn't seem to take us very long.
Where's your old function that you created last time?
Oh, it's right.
Why aren't we using it? I like that function. I wanted you to use it. I didn't want you to ignore it. Doesn't it already do the things you needed for the row, row, row? I thought we were going to use our cute function we'd already created.
Well, that's on us. When we got in there, we thought that maybe we had to start over.
No, that's okay. You guys are awesome.
Set up as like user input. So
but so we've still got this.
You got it. Let me see it.
But here's the new
But
one.
you left
This
your
is why
cutesy little function behind, but that's good. Let me see it. It looks awesome.
we thought. So we had actually. I will. There we go. Okay, so we got. So you can look at both of them, but so here's the new one.
Okay.
And so this is where we thought, I think we went too simplistic maybe, because we just created a function called the function head a variable one that stored text and then printed the variable with the text, then called the next function that had only text string.
Nice.
Then the third one that did the same thing as the first one, and then the fourth one that only prints string.
Looks good. Let's run it.
All right, and it's going to pop up on the other screen. I'll pull it over.
Awesome.
Is that kind of what you were looking for?
Sort of. So what I was thinking is I just wanted you to call your original function for the lines that did the repeating words, but you kind of just replicated your original function.
Yeah, and again, we got in there. We thought maybe it was
that is not a problem. I send you to your rooms and make you work on your own. It's easy to understand, and I think that it's a really good implementation of using functions, and that's what I wanted, was for you guys to get more comfortable with using them. So that's our main thing. So I think you did. You feel like you had a little bit more experience using functions?
Yeah, so doing, let's see, I think doing the homework that's due today, I took a break from it for a while and went back and started doing the functions and the passing of variables, and it started making a lot more sense. So today was a lot faster.
Good. Hopefully it'll help. Yeah, sometimes we don't have time for enough practice, but I decided this one we were going to. So thanks, you guys. Let me know, just one of you turn that in. That's fine.
Okay.
And let me know if you need anything. Otherwise, I'll see you next Tuesday.
Okay, now can we turn in the 2 different ones? Is that all right? Or do you
Sure.
want them on
Or
one?
you can just turn in your final one. Either way is fine.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. All right.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, who else we got? Sunny and Zach, are you guys here? Anybody else? There they are. I'll let them stop. Okay. Now, who else needs to show us something? Oh, I still got RJ's here.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We didn't sign out. Do I need to cut out?
No, I got it. You're okay. Okay, now it's ready. If anybody else is ready to share. I'm here if anybody wants to share. If you're all set, good to go. That's all right. I will see you next Tuesday. Let me know if you need anything.
So for when we finish, do each of us individually need to turn it in, or does just one group member turn it in?
Just one for the group.
Okay.
Do you put everybody's names on it that worked on it though? So
I just put study group 2.
okay, you guys are all pretty much there, weren't you?
Yeah.
Okay, great. You guys have the big group. Thank you.
So is class over?
Yep, you're good to go, sir. Let me know if you need anything. Don't forget about your unit exam on Thursday, okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hey.
I think we're done.
Okay.
So if you're ready, I'll share.
I think so. Go ahead and share and I'll try to find it. There it is. All right.
Okay. So we start with asking if it's song time. You can put anything in here because it doesn't matter how you answered. Here's a song. And then it spits it out. Row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 merrily. Life is but a dream.
Awesome.
And here's how we ended up writing that out. And we were printing the dual output down below as well to verify that it was working properly. So we were getting 2 copies of the song until I commented that line out. And I take that comment and you can see that it's repeating and is working the way it.
Oh, fancy. Very nice.
So, and we had toyed with making this so that you could type in what you wanted it to be, but you know, we just wanted to finish the thing.
And I don't trust user input.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always bad. Okay. Do you feel like a little more comfortable with functions?
A little bit, yeah.
A little bit passing data and returning data, because it can be something that's so hidden, you know?
Yeah, and for me, it's I don't mind doing it this way. This seems to be a little cleaner. I just keep falling back to old habits.
Right.
And that's how we got it to work in the first place, but this is less lines of code ultimately. So makes it a little bit nicer.
Oh, I think it looks good. Go ahead and turn that in. I hope you feel a little bit better with functions. And
yeah.
Of course, you'll get lots of more practice. Do what?
Just saying, yeah, I do. I'm actually pretty comfortable with functions. It just need more practice as far as passing variables go. And it's just to get the syntax down. I understand the logic. It's just where
you put things.
Yeah, where things go in kind of order of operations.
Yeah, and you just determine that when you set up your function. So however you, whatever order you put your parameters in your function definition is the order the parameters have to be when you call it. So you can control that.
I think I still prefer global variables to passing functions. I can see now a better use for it. But for most of our simple stuff, I like my global variables. So I just everything is I like to micromanage what it's doing. So so I can see with my own 2 eyes exactly what's happening.
Yeah, and I think that the global variables are, you know, really good in their place. It's just that as the field has evolved, they've gotten to the point where they like each function to be completely independent. And if we're using global variables, then all those functions are dependent on each other because they're all sharing the same variables. And so that's kind of why.
And this streamlines things a lot better too.
Yeah.
The global variable is just kind of chunky, whereas this has got a more fluid motion to it.
Yeah, it's just more flexible. It adds more flexibility in where you're not locked to those variables. So looks good. Either one of you can turn that in. Make sure that you just have you guys' names in there since your group
all the way up at the top.
All righty.
All right, you said either one of us or both of us?
Either one of you. It should just need one.
Okay.
For the whole group. And go ahead and take your don't forget the exam for Thursday.
Yep.
Whenever you want. And let me know if you need anything. Otherwise, I'll see you Tuesday.
All right. Enjoy.
Thanks, guys.
All right,
Bye.
thank you.
All right, Sonny, I'll go ahead and try.